Und hier ist die NATO ein bisschen schwammig.
Hi, welcome back to a brand new video of the Targeted Individual Program, Targeted Individual Experience. So, guys have heard me talk about cognitive warfare. I talk about it for the past year and a half, 2 years, because again, I started to, I came upon an article which was cognitive warfare against black boys, all right? And then after that, I do more research on cognitive warfare and realized that the U.S. military, U.S. government, uh, our allies, NATO, have been heavily engaged in cognitive warfare, not just against our so-called adversaries, but in NATO countries, our government, our military, right, particularly here in the United States, the Secret Service, not Secret Service, the CIA, the FBI, your state and local law enforcement, predator law enforcement agencies have all engaged in cognitive warfare, and particularly against the black population, first and foremost. I just want to make that clear. And I've always said this whenever the U.S. government, whenever the CIA, the military, Department of Defense want to experiment and engage in psychological operations in order to gain new insights, right, a new aspect of cognitive warfare and psychological warfare, it is the black community that they turn to in order to what? Experiment with these programs, with these psychological programs. Now it falls under the ban of cognitive warfare. Because not only does it affect our psychological state, but it affects our ability to think, ability to react, ability to be rational, our ability to learn. Right? So here is this is on February 4th. And again, I was surprised to find these videos because again, I guess I shouldn't be surprised because my searches on YouTube and Google and all these other search sites, literally is about what I talk about, right? So whether it be non-consensual human experimentation, whether it be illegal microchipping, whether it be microchipping period, whether it be technology that deals with the manipulation of human beings, these things, I'm always searching, trying to find new articles, new research papers and stuff like that, or new results, so what have you, when it comes to dealing with these things. Now, this, okay, is a discussion of how NATO targets its own population with cognitive warfare, right? Dr. Jonas Torgel. And in the beginning, here a little bit of German there. I kind of accidentally hit the the play button before I meant to hit the when I hit the record button, I meant to uh, um, not hit the play button, but I hit the play button for whatever reason. So that's why you hear the little him speaking in German. Let me just play a couple parts of this video.
And here NATO is a bit vague, but if you look closely at the documents, and I have looked at them very closely, it is indeed stated that, of course, the foreign population is the target of cognitive warfare. Here we want to control the narratives of the enemy, but
And again, this is a Fair Use Act, the uh, Copyright Act of 1967, I believe. Let's see here. Copyright Fair Use. Okay, let's see. Of 1976, right? So, which is for the allowance is made for fair use for purposes such as criticism, comments, news reporting, teaching, scholarship, education, and fair use. Okay. All right.
also of our own population. And then you realize there is a program with facets: defense and offense, foreign population, and own population. And then it becomes clear how radical and all encompassing these manipulation techniques are. Also interpreted.
I want you to listen to this part. Okay. I want you, and again, when I give specific point of reference, understand how serious this is. Okay. And again, this they try to downplay this, right? But experts in the military, in the security agencies know how serious this is because they themselves engage in it. They themselves manipulate us, okay, to shift our way of thinking, believing, reacting, learning, okay, behaviors, the whole nine.
And laid out by NATO, every person is seen at all times at the center of this highly manipulative psychological warfare, with the declared goal of being able to hack their mind. This is stated literally in the documents.
Hacken zu können, so steht es wortwörtlich in den Dokumenten.
Okay, so let me get to another part of this video which I want you guys to listen and hear what it is that he is saying.
Steht es wortwörtlich in den Dokumenten.
Hallo zusammen, hier ist wieder Pascal auf Deutsch, denn ich rede.
Hello everyone, this is Pascal speaking in German again, because today I'm talking with Dr. Jonas Togel, a research associate at the Institute of Psychology at the University of Regensburg in Germany. Dr. Togel has been researching for a long time on the topics of soft power, motivation, and propaganda, and frequently writes best-selling literature, including Cognitive Warfare, Latest Manipulation Techniques as a Weapon of NATO, and just recently released War Games, How NATO and the Pentagon Simulate the Destruction of Europe. We want to discuss these two topics today in two parts. Dear Dr. Togel, it's great to have you here.
Lieber Herr Dr. Tögel, schön, dass Sie da sind.
Dr. Togel, thank you for the invitation.
Die beiden Bücher, die Sie geschrieben haben, sind faszinierend.
The two books you have written are fascinating. And you also mentioned in our preliminary conversation that they logically build on each other. We would like to briefly discuss the first book, Cognitive Warfare. Could you perhaps broadly explain what cognitive warfare is about? How does NATO work with it? And what should we absolutely know about it?
Und was sollten wir unbedingt darüber wissen?
Also, wenn ich die kognitive Kriegsführung mit
So, if I were to explain cognitive warfare in one sentence, I would say cognitive warfare is the most advanced form of manipulation that exists today.
Okay, so you guys heard what he just said, right? Cognitive warfare is the most advanced form of manipulation that we have today, right? And again, when you go and you research cognitive warfare, all right, you'll see that it encompasses psychological manipulation, environmental manipulation, propaganda, the use of technology, right? Machines, the use of radio wave and microwave frequency. But then you also have neurocognitive warfare. And neurocognitive warfare is the use of microchips, the use of nanoscale technology to implant into people's bodies and minds in order to manipulate and control. Okay?
With that, I've already understood a lot. This is a very concise sentence, and it doesn't come from me, but from Marie-Pierre Raymond. She is a Canadian defense expert, and she says this sentence in connection with an innovation competition on cognitive warfare that was announced by NATO in 2021. This means we are dealing with an official NATO program in cognitive warfare, which has existed as such since 2020 or 2021, and it's simply a program.
Okay, now again, there's a reason why I record my videos to show you guys that this was not created in 2020, particularly for us as TIs. This goes back to the late 1980s, all the way up until today. All right. And for those of you who don't know what I'm talking about, you can go Google Kathy McKinley, or Cynthia McKinley. Is her name? Cynthia Kathy McKinley, right? She was a NSA analyst in the 1980s up until the early 1990s. Okay, and she went to the high ups at the NSA and to ask to investigate the claim of people in America, living in America, who are experiencing certain symptoms. And she said that those symptoms mirror the research the U.S. government, the CIA, and others have been engaging in when it comes to directed energy weapons, basically microwave and radio wave frequencies, right? Not only for mind control, but to cause harm, right? Physical harm. So not just psychological harm, but physical harm, and not just neurological harm. And when she brought the attention, she said, there are all these people calling, writing, all complaining about the exact same thing. And they told her to forget about it. But she was getting so many calls and reports about it that she pursued it. And because she pursued it, they started targeting her. They started targeting her, and then they fired her from the NSA, claiming that she had mental stability issues. But that, again, you look at the patterns. This is what they do. When for people telling the truth, people who are exposing the truth that they don't want exposed, the one of the things that they do is to label you with a mental illness. Okay? So, let's continue.
That is an umbrella term for psychological warfare. That already existed.
Psychologische Kriegsführung, die gab es schon. Informationskriegsführung, die gab es auch schon.
Information warfare has existed before. War propaganda has existed before. Cognitive warfare essentially encompasses all these subdisciplines as a collective term. It consolidates all the manipulation techniques we already have, intensifies them, and also looks at how these manipulations can be further advanced in the future. And now one might ask, wait a minute, why is psychological warfare? Why is cognitive warfare? Why are our thoughts and feelings even a part of warfare? Don't the military fight with tanks, ships, and airplanes? I have to say that this distinction between hard and soft power is very important. To briefly touch on it, hard power is military force. Those are the tanks, the ships, the airplanes.
Das sind die Panzer, die Schiffe, die Flugzeuge. Dafür hat die NATO auch für sich selbst Kriegsschauplätze.
For this, NATO has also designated theaters of war for itself, at sea, on land, and in the air. In these, battles are simply fought with these hard power weapons. And then we have a new theater of war, space, since 2019. We have had the internet since 2016. This means we have these 5 theaters of war that already exist and are already being fought on.
Okay. So when he said we have the internet since 2016, that kind of puzzled me, right? Because as far as I've been a targeted individual, right, which is again in the beginning, for me being aware of it, which is in the early 2000s, the beginning, I should say, of 2000, they were engaging in cognitive warfare using the internet even before that. All right? So when I talk about like coming home from work and going on my computer and researching behavioral modification and stuff like that in the early 2000s, okay, they were sitting outside using their sirens. They were hitting me with denial of service attacks. Okay, there are certain sites that I would go on to learn about, people call it, to learn about and I'm doing a screen record, so I'm just gonna let it run there, right? But from so I'm looking here, yeah. So when I was looking at these, trying to find out more about behavior modification, thought reform, those sort of things, even microchipping, right? I was being hit with denial of service attacks because there were websites in the early 2000s that was talking about this stuff. That was talking about the coercive persuasion program. Right? I've been talking about this shit for almost 2 decades. Right? So even these so-called experts, these doctors, these researchers, and again, there are people in Germany who's experiencing what we experience here in the U.S. Even in China. How do you think China becomes so advanced in when it comes to that the U.S. is so worried about China uh, um, advanced in BCI, brain computer interface technology? Don't believe me? Look it up. You'll see tons of articles about the U.S. being so concerned with China. And this is not recently. Okay, this is not recently. So even the experts, but because we as TIs have been they try to discredit us, so no one will talk to us. This is why I do what I do. This is why I do the videos that I do, so that if people are looking to try to understand what's being done, that we have documentation as TIs. We have documentation to show it happening in the real world, right? Cognitive warfare being engaged in the real world, and how they use others within your community, on the side of your community, to engage in cognitive warfare against you as a TI, as a targeted individual.
And now, however, there is a shift in significance away from this hard power, away from military force, towards soft power. And soft power is simply the battle for our thoughts and feelings.
Der Kampf unsere Gedanken und Gefühle mit einem Beispiel erklärt, wenn ich sage, wie kann man einfach
To explain with an example, if I say, how can we make this distinction so tangible? Then I would say, think of Plato's allegory of the cave. To briefly outline it, perhaps we could also display an image here, but you see people are trapped below in a cave, and they have illusions projected onto the wall. And the question is, how do I keep the people down there in the cave? If I were to use hard power, I would say, I put chains on the people. Maybe I put shackles on their feet so they can't get out.
Fußfesseln an, was sie da nicht rauskennen. Dann spüren sie aber diesen Zwang, sie werden immer rebellieren.
Then they feel this compulsion. They would always rebel. They might saw, tinker somehow, and try to get rid of these shackles, to somehow cut through and get to the way up. And with soft power, I do it completely differently. I have illusions projected onto the wall. They are captivated by stories being told to them. It's like a movie playing on the wall in front of them. They don't even realize they are trapped because they are so captivated by the illusions that actually blind them. They are influenced by these soft...
All right, so this would be akin to, I talk about black people being the test subject of these programs. And, you'll hear black people, particularly black scholars, black people who are trying to wake up other black people, talk about the shackling of our minds, right, and religion. So when he's talking about what he's mentioning here about these captivating stories, that's religion. For black people, this religion has captivated our minds, right? And so this idea that this person died for our sins and we are born sinners and stuff like that. Black people are the ones who really take hold of these stories, right? These myths, okay? And so when he talks about, you might put chains on them. Now we don't have chains on our necks, our hands, and our feet, but we have chains on our minds. Our minds are shackled, right? And religion is a big reason, a big part of that for us as black people. This is why we can't see our way out of what's happening to us, because we don't seriously look at our reality, because in our minds, the belief system that they give us is what controls us. So we don't tinker, we don't saw, we don't, blow up, we don't, what I'm saying? But we remain domesticated, our minds domesticated, docile, like dogs, right? So when you feed a dog, if you just meet a stray dog, you start feeding the stray dog. That stray dog will recognize you and will understand that when he sees you, or the female dog sees you, that they start salivating at the mouth because they know they're going to be fed, right? It's like Pavlov's dog. Okay? So one day you come around, you have no food in your hands, right? But that dog sees you. All of a sudden, the rapid response of that dog is, again, this is what is called I'm looking for the psychological the I would say the unconscious stimuli, right? So that dog sees you and immediately starts salivating at the mouth because the dog has formed an association, right? And again, that goes along with NLP, neuro-linguistic programming. The dog finds it, so you becomes a trigger, and the anchor in that dog is to salivate. Okay, which is again, you have the unresponsive stimuli and responsive stimuli. I think that's what it's called. And this is what happened with religion, because and living in a white supremacist society, right? The idea in our minds, the belief that God is white, Jesus is white, and white people control everything, so they give us the jobs. We gotta go to the government. They got, what have you. We've pictured that it is a white man at the top of everything. So our unconscious stimuli is that we see every white person, every white man, as a savior, right? But they're not our savior. They are our oppressors. But we cannot make that connection because religion is supplanted, implanted in our psyche. And the idea of who God is and who Jesus is, who the angels are, who all these prophets were or are all white. And they're living in your black mind. Okay? So when he talks about soft power, religion is part of
Power techniques, if I break it down on a psychological level. These are influence techniques that affect us in such a
All over the earth, God is raising up a new breed of wealth builders who
even notice,
So beeinflussen, dass es gar nicht mit.
because they are so captivated by the illusions that actually blind them. They are influenced by these soft power techniques, if I break it down on a psychological level. These are influence techniques that affect us in such a way that we don't even notice.
So beeinflussen, dass wir es gar nicht mitbekommen. Wir haben keinen Widerstand dagegen. Deshalb eben diese Soft Power.
We have no resistance to it. These are precisely those soft power techniques.
Now you hear what he said? We have no resistance to it, which is true. You hear people talking about, no one can manipulate their mind. When it comes to these technologies, when it comes to cognitive warfare, right? There's a book called There's a book of PDF paper called The Mind Has No Firewall. When our government, its security agencies, military agencies are creating weapons to manipulate our minds, particularly using pulse modulated microwave and radio wave frequency, there is no defense mechanism for that. They can change your personality. They can manipulate you on the go. And particularly if you are microchip, they are feeding you whatever they want to feed you. And it is a takeover of your unconscious and conscious mind. Your mind controls you. Okay? But again, they have to keep this secret, and they have to keep those of us who understand what they're doing, because we are victims of this. They have to discredit us in every way. And this is what I want UTS to understand. So when I talk about, you need to stop worrying about why, and figure out how you're going to survive what it is that they're doing to you. How are you going to try to change, to recognize your own self, right? And to filter out, at times, some of the negative things that they put in your mind. Because you're not going to be able to filter out every single one of it. You're not going to be able to block their attack on your cognitive ability, your emotional state, right? Your way of thinking. Because they will use some of the most opportune time in which to manipulate you, right? In order to create whatever narrative they want to create. Okay?
And of course, they have always existed in warfare, but they are becoming increasingly important now because NATO has essentially recognized that people's thoughts and feelings are the key to the new form of warfare, this cognitive warfare.
All right, so I'm going to end the video here. With like 6 minutes and 18 seconds in. And I also want to talk about what was happening over the weekend. So I didn't do a video yesterday. They were baiting me to do a video, what have you, to see if I would, because they become addicted to the video. And of course, they want real world feedback in terms of my reaction to what it is, the subliminal message that they were sending me. So I said, you know what, I'll just wait till the next day to do a video on it. So I go into the bathroom, and of course, they have a water bottle on the windowsill with very little water in it. And I'm saying to myself, why are they leaving this stuff there? But then again, I realized what was happening, right? Yesterday, I woke up. Actually, last night I woke up. I fell asleep yesterday afternoon. Just from, something like I said, your brain gets exhausted from these attacks, right? So I went to bed, Saturday, a little what, after minutes to 2, woke up around 7, right? Woke up around 7, immediately the New York Predator Department began using these sirens. I'm like, okay, what have you. But anyway, so I called the kids. I called the kids to see if they were up. No one answered the phone. Called them around minutes to 12. So I ended up calling Pam, and I asked her, I said, "Are the kids still sleeping?" She was like, I'm just getting out of bed." I'm like, "You just get out of bed? It's 12 o'clock on a Sunday, right?" I said, "Okay." I said, "All right." I said, "Well, I'll tell the kids I'll call them back later." Okay. After 2 was like minutes to, a little after 2. Called the kids again. I called my son's phone. I called the house phone. Neither of them is picking up. I called her back. She sent me a text. I'll call you back later. I knew that she was still letting the kids sleep past 12 o'clock. Okay? So I called Ethan again about half an hour later. They don't answer, what have you. So I think it was like 3:30 or so. I called her. And she calls back. And she was like, I said, "Are the kids up?" She's like, "Ethan is up. Alyssa is still sleeping." And again, I'm like, whatever. It's like, you cannot talk common sense into a chaotic, irrational mind. Okay? And a lot of, particularly for black people, like I said, what they have done to us with cognitive warfare, and cognitive warfare is to create a mindset that, that don't think, we don't care about our children the way that we should, the way how they care about their children, right? But I talk about this, they want to change the school curriculum so that their children won't feel bad about what their ancestors did to our ancestors. Okay, you know what I'm saying? That's how much they love their children, and that they're willing to erase the history, right? Or to modify the history to say, that people they did not enslave anybody. They were working side by side, and it was a shared corporation that benefited everyone. All right. So anyhow, so I called her back, and she's finally like, "Oh, I just woke up. Alyssa's just getting up. What have you?" And listen, like I said, it took a lot for me to not, confront her on that again. But I was like, you know what? It's Sunday. I just want to relax, so I'm not going to. So I called her last night at 11 o'clock to see if the kids were sleeping, because I knew they wasn't. And I said to her, "Hey, Pam, how are you doing?" I said, "Are the kids in bed?" "No." This is 11 o'clock. Remember, the kids have school in the morning. Right? And I spoke to my daughter around 7 minutes to 8. Right? And I told her, "Okay, you finish, eat, and then go take a bath. You guys got to get to bed." So the kids were still up at 11 o'clock. And why? Because their mother let them sleep, till 1, 2 o'clock on a Sunday afternoon. And she doesn't get it. Because why? Because she wants to do whatever she wants to do. Right? And not be bothered. So she wants to make sure she gets her full rest. All right? So if it means letting them sleep on a Sunday till 2, 3 o'clock in the afternoon, that's what she'll do. It doesn't matter the fact that they have school the next day. Right? And then at 11 o'clock, she's like, I got to go do laundry. I'm like, again, it's like, what? There isn't anything more I could say to this woman, but I keep trying But then it brings you back to a video that it talks about, not a video, a couple of articles I was reading about narcissistic people and how when they are exposed, right, how they, instead of them trying to change certain things about them to become more positive and to make it easier for themselves, that they dig deeper into their narcissism, right? And then on top of that, they manipulate the people around them to supply them with more narcissistic support, or what is called um, narcissistic supply, right? Because you agree to what they're saying, you tell them what they want to hear, you know, and not being honest and truthful with them. And then some people who are not highly narcissistic cannot. There's nothing you can do for them. There's nothing you can do for them. All right. So look, some people may say I'm narcissistic. That's fine. But when you look at the behavior patterns, when you look at the not being able to just thinking about yourself only and not thinking about other people, particularly your children, not making sure that they get up and go to bed at a decent time because you're thinking about their schooling and their mental health, their physical health also, their social, their ability to socialize with other people, right? It's non-existent. So I was like, all right. I was like, listen, all right, good night, and I just hanged up, and and I went to bed early too. I went to bed like around, was it a little after 12, right? I took like 3 melatonins, right? I took by nitric oxide, and again they're using their sirens. So I get up this morning and I go to I guess I got up this morning again using the sirens again. Went to use the bathroom to brush my teeth. As soon as I turned on the sink, they started with the sirens again. Now they used to do that a lot. Where every time I turn on the sink in the kitchen or in the bathroom, they'll start using the sirens. So they began that again today. But hey, it is what it is. I can just continue to document and expose what's being done, and that's what I'm going to do. All right. So with that being said, I'll talk to you guys in the next video.